Hey guys, how's it going? DakiniBrave here, and today's video is going to be something a bit different. If you guys were following my community posts, you'd know that on the weekend I was in a tournament. The Soraka Open Qualifier to be exact, which is how players in the OCE region get into our major tournaments, which eventually lead to Worlds. To cut a long story short, I qualified for the finals, which will be taking place this upcoming Saturday, time's on screen if you want to tune in, and the next two videos will be exploring how I made it to the finals, my thought process behind a lot of things I did, the overall mentality, and the ideas I was playing around in a tournament setting. I'll have a VoD link to each of the games in the description if you want to watch the entire thing. And with that out of the way, let's get into the first game. In this tournament, I made the decision to play Ornn, as this patch is on 13.12 and the Ornn items such as Eternal Winter and Sniper's Focus are pretty strong for and against meta boards, such as Aphelios and Zeri. Eternal Winter being one of the best, if not the best, defensive option against both, while being decent against units such as Lux. Our region options were Unstable Rift, Glask Industries, and Godwillow's Grove, all of which are pretty underwhelming, but I haven't had much practice on Godwillow's. I opted to vote for Unstable Rift, a region effect that's pretty neutral for pretty much all boards with little favoritism towards specific comps. Skipping ahead to augment choices, I was offered Forge, Rogue Crest, and Scrappy Inventions. Since I was already holding Viego already, Rogue Crest wouldn't have been a bad option, but would rather play for something stronger, such as Forge or Built Different, and at the time I wasn't aware of how strong Scrappy Inventions was. In the brief time I had between picking Portable Forge and the shop window for the actual Ornn item to show up, I noticed I had 2 copies of Viego in my shop, which would give me a pretty strong 2-star opener. As I whiffed on both of the high roll options, I settled on Death Defiance as it's a pretty solid option in comps like Rogue and Ionia Challenger, and Viego is a pretty good holder for it. The unfortunate thing about my position was that I didn't have any amazing slammable items to go alongside my otherwise great start. I had a choice between Zeke's, Zizirot, and Giant Slayer. Zizirot is surprisingly pretty decent as an early game item, but it does burn a bow, which is something I'll likely need 2 of in the future, and I wasn't exactly for the idea of Zeke's, so my intent was to take good losses moving forward into stage 2. That's where I was wrong. I 3-streaked into the carousel round, giving me no item priority to try and fix my items, and I ended up with a 3-cost cloak. However, it wasn't until after I picked it up that I realized slamming BT was likely not a wise choice as I already had DD from Ornn. This is where my true skill as a TFT player really shined, as I pre-leveled before going in. I hit a 2% Yasuo in my shop. I decided not to play him as I felt keeping my current game plan would result in myself not becoming dizzy. However, in hindsight, it was most likely the correct pivot into moving the items onto Yasuo and playing Ionia Challenger. Keeping my streak into Krugs, I find another 2 copies of Viego, leaving me 1 off 3-star. I dropped a bunch of money from the Rock Goblins and a tier, an item that in the current moment was hard to slam, resulting in me losing my streak on 3-1. My initial 3-2 augments were a little lackluster, being offered Medium Forge, Rich Get Richer, and 2 Healthy. Rerolling the set of augments into Unified Resistance 2, an augment that's known to be pretty strong right now, Dedication, and Cybernetic Bulk. I ended up just taking Unified as it was a very frontline heavy comp, and I get a lot of value. Oh, and I also just natural the Viego 3 in my shop after picking. I leveled to 6 and rolled down to 30 gold to try and find any rogue unit, as that would spike me hard moving through stage 3, and would most likely cause me to streak the entire way, as I just landed on a pretty strong carry. Which did not end up being the case, as I fought someone with a GG Titans Kai'Sa who just ended up nuking my board. On the carousel round, I ended up taking a Chain Vest to finish Titan's Resolve on Viego, as it would give him some much needed damage and bulk, which pairs well with the lifesteal he has on Death Defiance. Nothing else really notable happened throughout the stage, and with my wolf drops, I just slammed BT on Viego as I had nothing really else with the sword that I could or wanted to slam on him. My final augments offered were Job Well Done, Library Card, and Salvage Bin. Wasn't too happy with what was offered, so I opted to just take Salvage Bin for the free items. After stage 4 carousel, I made the decision to just drop Noxus completely at this point, as it was very contested and played more into a Viego with Shadow House, playing for Gwen as my secondary carry. Naturaling her on the creep round and building Archangel's BTJG as was all I had left in terms of item components that I felt would have been good on her. The rest of the game was pretty uneventful, flip-flopping between wins and losses. The major crux of this game ending in a 3rd was due to me going level 9 instead of saying level 8 and rolling for Gwen 3, as other people in my lobby were rolling for 3-star forecasts. If I spent my money rolling down for Gwen, there's a world I hit and end up with a 2nd or even a 1st. A second thing to note is that in the last fight, if I position my Viego 1 tile to the left, I likely win the fight, resulting in a 2nd place at the very least. As when his rogue popped, he would have landed 1 tile in front of his Zia and killed the main sources of DPS for my opponent. Yeah, I did. I think I lose because of that. Because I don't actually get on his backline in time. Because if I can kill his backline, I win. But if I don't, I lose very hard. Wait, actually? Yeah, I do. Am I dead? Yep. Okay. Heading into game 2, we get Shuriman Bazaar, which causes all component carousels to spawn with 2 components instead of 1. Skipping ahead to the first augment, pretty much all the other options are mediocre, so I opted to take Portable Forge again, this time not missing Sniper's Focus. As of this patch, 13.12, it's an instant take item and can be used in pretty much all comps, including Sorcerers, on someone like Lux or Ari. It's essentially just a better Giant Slayer if you play around the max range of units of tiles, which tends to be about 4, resulting in a 40% damage increase. Taking 2 losses and a win into Carousel gives me second pick and allows me to secure a needlessly large rod, which allows me to complete my Gwinsu's Rage Blade. As I have a level 2 Tristana and a Jace, I'm pretty much angling for Gunners with Zeri and Zorn. However, I made a mistake of not leveling up the Carousel as I had a win under my belt, and a big spike, resulting in me not keeping a pretty free 3 streak into Krugs, and losing it the round before instead. 3-2 left us with a Prismatic Augment pick, and this is where I made my second major mess up. I opted to pick Radiant Relics, which on its own is a pretty decent decision. However, I had the choice between Radiant Giant Slayer and Radiant Hodge. I was blinded by the fact that Demon Slayer tends to be one of the strongest Radiant item picks in the game, without considering the fact that I already had a source of percent increased damage from my Ornn item. While the Radiant option has a higher percentage, double dipping doesn't tend to be that good, as an item like Hodge, which gives us raw stats that multiply better with the already existing increases. My problem that I mentioned can be easily mitigated by playing 4 Gunner, which gives us a bunch of raw stats to go with the stacked increase, but I'll just leave that there for foreshadowing. The rest of the stage is pretty whatever, losing the next 2 fights into Wolves. Leveling on 7 on stage 4-1, leaving me with 37 gold to dig for units such as Aphelios and Zeri that can use the items I have, and missing completely, leaving me in a pretty terrible spot. 4-2 is a silver augment, not much to talk about, but I opted to take Harm Assist as I had no source of healing on my main carries at this point, and there was a lot of chip damage, another way in which Radiant Hodge would have been amazing. Rolled a little bit of gold in 4-2, and now of course, hitting Zeri after I committed all my gold. My 4 Zone was Virulent, which tends to be Zeri's best upgrade, as again, like the 2 items that I already have slammed, gives percent increased damage, which doesn't help mitigate for my earlier issues. Nothing else really much happened during stage 4. I'm going to skip ahead to 5-2. I took some pretty bad losses and I'm in a pretty dire position, being forced to level an 8 and roll to stabilize my board. Only hitting Sedge 2 and spend 30 gold with level 8 odds left me a little bit demoralized. However, hitting Sinner kept some hope. If I could replace Warwick or Echo with the Jinx, it would allow me to keep 4 Gunner and 4 Zorn on top of the ideal world of hitting into Zeri 2 alongside it. On stage 6-1 I finally hit Zeri 2, but it's far too late. Any bad fight instantly results in my demise and I'm at 10 HP. I'm in this awkward position where I'm stuck with 3 Gunner and 3 Zorn. 1 unit solves this. 1 unit that is a struggle to find at level 8. Jinx. That marks the end of game 2. Numerous mistakes mounting up, resulting in me losing a lot of HP, but still managing to inch out a top 4. Not a glamorous game, but it's one I'll take nonetheless. I don't think Zeri 2 saves me against this board. Like, once they start getting chain reactions, they're pretty strong. Actually, kill Ari and we're chilling, right? Wow, I actually lose that. Oh, I'm dead. Please tell me Thun dies. Fuck. Okay, I'm 4th. This one is going to be brief. Overall, I don't think there were too many issues I made on my end, except for one very notable one. But overall, the lobby was incredibly high roll. I started with a Cassiopeia on 1-2, hit Aurelia 2, cast 2, and a set. Pretty bad overall augment choices, and I take Portable Forge for the 3rd time today. Between the options DD, Deathfire, and Eternal, I opt to take Defiance, as I already have a good setup for an Ionia challenge game. And I can ignore BT. I misplay and have my Viego hold the Chain Vest. The correct play was 100% to slam Gargoyles on Aurelia and take my free win streak, as I'm playing around 3 upgraded units. The next round, I already switch into something resembling more of an Ionia board, as Jhin is just strong early game and I don't mind dropping the upgraded units. Taking a 5 streak into Krugs, we slam Titans and QSS on Viego, as he'll hold our Yasuo items for later. And as we find a Zed, we activate Rogue for the item holder Viego. We end up taking Cybernetic Leech as our silver augment on 3-2, And the other two options, army building and young, wild and free, don't really do too much for us right now. We want to continue our streak, so taking a combat augment helps that. Young and Wild and Free is a decent pickup if you feel like you don't have enough combat power to continue, as it gives you carousel priority at all times. And since if you streak early, you're generally last pick, it can help secure insane pickups. Unfortunately, I lose my streak on 3-3 anyway to a level 2 Garen with insane items. He was just unkillable for my composition. While nothing insane happened moving into Wolves, I did mention something very important. I'm actually pretty uncontested, so I can wait until everyone does their 4-1 roll down, and then I roll down on 4-2 instead. So to elaborate, if you're uncontested in a 4-cost comp, you can wait until 4-2 to roll down as opposed to 4-1. With everyone else in the lobby, they'll start clearing up the 4-cost pool while you roll down for your uncontested units. 4-2 is also a better stage to level on, as the interval is perfect. On Wolves, we drop a natural tome, and I think this is where I made a crucial mistake. I should have popped this tome on 4-3 after I'd already pivoted into my proper board, as I currently have a lot of dead trade outcomes, due to having units like Viego and Jarvan on my board. Deadeye Emblem is untakeable, Zorn Emblem is never a consideration, Noxus is dead on so many levels, and Rogue is just horrendous. At the very least, the tome should have been popped on 4-2 after I took out units like Jarvan. On 4-2, we're bowed out a little bit with Sentinel Spirit, but that still doesn't make up for the fact that we have a dead spat that could have been game-changing. Rolling down a bit, we find over Yasuo to replace our Viego, and the next round we find a Kai'Sa to make our board look a little bit more complete. Unfortunately, we're still missing a core unit such as Warwick, and at this point it'll be pretty hard to consistently hit him 2-star. On 5-1, we look to level to 8 and send it to 0 to hit our Yasuo 2 and Kai'Sa 2. Whiffing on Yasuo, we're looking for our 3-item Kai'Sa to carry our fights for the time being. I think the Shojin slam on her was a mistake, and putting Gunblade may have kept the fights more in my favour. Putting it on Karma isn't the end of the world, since at 2-star she'll still be doing decent damage to keep our frontline alive. After grabbing a Gargoyle from stage 5 Carousel, we hit a Yasuo pair in our shop and roll it down, and finish it hitting rather early this time. From here, in theory, we'd have a really strong board, but in practice, it wasn't that easy. I don't know what it was, but this lobby was cracked and I could barely keep up with the others. Dragon drops us an Ionic Spark, which allows us to bolster our Kai'Sa damage. At this point, I want my real tank items on my Aurelia 3 and the utility ones on Shen. And I'm going to be completely honest, I don't even know if this is correct. I think a 3-item Aurelia or a 3-item Shen would have been ideal, but I'd already committed to the split idea. Also, I'm going to highlight this part from stage 6-1 fight that I think was pretty tilt-worthy. I think I would have lost regardless, but in the moment it pained me to watch. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I just have a pretty mid matchup into this. Just because the Garen kind of goes in for... Oh, Kai'Sa! I just got trolled so hard. On 6-3, I go for a Hail Mary play. Going 9 wouldn't spike me, so I commit all my gold to hitting either Kai'Sa 3 or Yasuo 3. Unfortunately, I miss on both, being 7 copies of each, and this was inevitably the killing blow.
The void has breached its space.
Fuck. I didn't hit either of them. I cringe. In an ideal world, if I had a little bit more time on the stage, I do believe either selling the Yasuo or the Kai'Sa and committing more to one of an idea might have inched me out. But in the heat of the moment, I just couldn't really commit to the idea. I think I lose. Like, I'm pretty sure I just die here, unless I get like a 1 unit. I mean, my Kai'Sa's just inting, man. I don't know what to say. Holy shit. So here's something that's pretty important that I forgot to mention. This tournament is known as an open qualifier, meaning it's open rank. This means there's a lot, and I mean a lot of participants. 251 players that played at least one game and scored points, and even though I haven't bought forward a single game yet, I'm not actually in range of qualifying for the second day. I need a first to guarantee passing, and maybe a second if the overall score of the higher ranks was low. This game was a first or eighth mentality, and this is why I made such risky plays. Against all odds of 7 people voting for the Rupture, we were taken to the Placidium Library in Ionia. Leaving the creep rounds with something resembling a sorcerer start, we don't take Portable Forge for the first time. Being offered overcharged mana font was the game's way of basically handing me a free win. This augment is incredibly overtuned on this patch, and I was quick to recognize that. 2 wins and a loss leading us into our first carousel of the game allows me to secure a blue buff for our early carry Malzahar. Due to pre-leveling earlier, I play a level 2 Orianna trying to save as much HP as I can. My frontline is quite weak and capitulates quickly, hoping that Orianna will mitigate that as much as possible. Krugs left a lot to be desired, dropping me a second sword and 12 gold. While I know I'll be unable to continue my small streak further, I look to econ up for a spike on level 7. 3-2 contained silver augments, all of which were mediocre at best, so I opted into transfusion, which allows me to get stronger as I look to lose streak more into stage 3, by increasing the HP of my board. Due to our losses, we were second pick and able to secure a rod for Gunblade, a great item for Lux deeper into the game. Another viable option was the bow on Warwick, which would have allowed us to make Giant Slayer, but it's not a great item on stage 3 specifically, as very few units are in range for the extra percent damage. It gets better to the latter half of stage 4. And of course, after Carousel, we pick up a Sork Spat from the Placidium Library region and field 4 Sork with our Spat on Karma. Wolves dropping me a tear, belt and a glove makes my life a lot easier, allowing us to slam Sunfire for some anti-heal. This is where we potentially high roll the hardest. On 4-2, I was offered Sork Spat. This gives us an insane option to play 8 Sork on level 8 without sacrificing frontline. On a rolldown, we hit Rise, Lux and Jarvan, bringing our board to looking something a little bit closer resembling an actual board. Unfortunately, I made a mistake and sold the Malzahar holding my Lux items, making it hard for me to play 8 Sork moving forward without hitting Ahri or playing a dead level 1 Vel'Koz. As I didn't mention before, this is Ionia Rise. The TLDR is that every time he casts, he targets the 5 nearest units to the center of the board. If they're enemies, they're stunned. If they're allies, they're healed. And if you give him a Sork Spat, the healing is increased by a lot. And between Strategist and Sork giving him about 100 extra HP, he's healing for roughly 850. As I'm feeling quite strong, I decide to play the rest of the stage saving money for level 8, as 8 Sork would secure me the game quite hard. There was an Ahri on the stage 4 carousel, but unfortunately she was snatched away from me before I was able to make a move. And as a result, we settle on a 3-cost rod and make Jeweled Gauntlet on Lux, and finalize a Spear of Shojin on Rise. Raptors came to our rescue, and gave us the final piece of the puzzle, an Ionic Spark, so we have some magic penetration for some of the harder to kill targets, and a ZZ Rot Portal, which, in all honesty, could have been a lot worse since at the very least it's a very generic frontline item. I level to 8 on 5-1 and roll it down for some board upgrades, likely hitting an Ahri and moving some of the better items onto her, as 8 Sork makes her an insane force to be reckoned with, and at this point I'm incredibly happy with my position, setting it back down to 0 on 5-2 to finish some upgrades. Okay, I actually would have had Senna too. No comment. Come on, man. Okay, that's good enough. Due to being last pick, stage 5 carousel was less than ideal. However, still ending up with the Demacia Spat, which gives us a 3rd Lux item, albeit randomized. We put the Spat on Swain, as he's already holding 2 items, so we can't get priority over our more important unit Lux. However, at this point, we're locked in for at least 2nd place. The next few stages we spend our efforts killing the rest of the lobby, leaving the final boss, my friend, Feyrix. Dragon gave us some very interesting item options. My first instinct was to take Hodge for Ahri, but realized something very important. Oh, it's a Jarvan item. It's a Jarvan item because I don't want him to get the Radiant item when I upgrade him. Okay, right. I forgot. Damn, that actually kind of sucks. For some reason, when Lux and Jarvan are both level 2 with the same item count, more often than not, Jarvan gets Radiant item priority, and by picking a suboptimal item we ensure that the only outcome is for Lux, our main carry. The stage 6 carousel did me dirty. There was one Zephyr, and I lost the 50-50, the one thing I could lose to, my Lux being disabled for an extended period of time. Well, that leaves me with a Death Cap, a very suboptimal item considering I already had a huge source of AP from Sorcerer and Strategist. The final fights had me stressed, thinking that Ahri2 would be required to beat a semi-capped Zeri board. I leveled to 9, but my worries were for naught. After fitting in 3 Ionia to have Ahri cast more often, I rolled my gold looking for the last copy of Ahri, but was left in despair as she evaded me yet again. At the very least, Jarvan was found. As I made my way to the final fight, I completely forgot about what had transpired. My Lux was Zephyred, stuck in the air, unable to fight, my life flashing before my eyes. Everything I had done led up to this. Okay, no, like, who am I kidding? She landed and destroyed his entire board. Lux was overkill. The level 1 Ari who could chain Sulk procs cleaned up everything. And thus, with that, I qualified for day 2. Oh my god. Ah, the first or 8th gameplay. Holy, I think I qualify. Thank you so much for making it this far. If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a comment. This helps me out in the algorithm. This video took way more effort than my usual highlights, and I would appreciate it a lot. This format is something new to me, and if you don't mind seeing more, let me know in the comments, otherwise I can always return to the normal highlight videos for tournaments. And with that, peace.